Hello and welcome into the Touchdown NFL podcast, week 11. We are well into the season now. Myself, Lee, we're here with Tayyib, and we finally, after many weeks of trying, we've got Joe on board. Joe, welcome back to the podcast, my man.
This feels like it happened yesterday, and it feels like it's been 5 years. So I'm just glad to be on, no matter how long it took, and no matter how I had to make it happen. It's nice to be back.
It is. It's nice to have you on, and obviously, in good circumstances as well, with the Browns winning. But we'll get on. We'll get on to all that. But yeah, obviously, wanted to just kick off the show, obviously, by a quick intro in how much the Joe Burrow injury has just killed preseason takes. I was looking back, obviously, once it happened early on Sunday, how many of us preseason voted for the Bengals to be preseason favorites for the Super Bowl and even just to make it to Super Bowl. I was one of them. And this is just another nail in the coffin of the Bengals season, isn't it, guys? I mean, it's one that just never seems to get off the ground for the Bengals, obviously with the calf injury and then obviously this wrist injury, how long it's been lingering around and things like that. We mentioned in winners and losers. Go over to touchdown.co.uk and read that. But yeah, Tayyib, you're shaking your head. What do you feel about this from a Bengals point of view? You're kind of neutral because you're an NFC fan, so I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as a neutral's point of view, I think particularly that division, it's more fun when all four teams are kind of beating up on one another. It always feels like a kind of battle royal, that division
Yeah.
in the last few seasons. So obviously now, that game on Thursday night when Burrow came out was kind of like effectively over. Like Jake Browning is a rookie. It's a hard ass going to Baltimore against that defense and trying to beat them in their own building anyways. Like it would have been a tough task with Joe Burrow. So I think from that point of view, it's sad that a team that potentially could have been in that frantic wild card race is now probably out of it. I can't see them kind of like I think we all knew the division had already gone. I don't think Baltimore were ever going to slip up enough to allow Cincinnati to come back into it. But you think of Buffalo's in that wild card race, Houston's in that wild card race, obviously Pittsburgh and Cleveland, Denver making a push. So you thought a healthy Burrow, they kind of started getting some momentum. Obviously, they were outstanding in San Francisco when they won there a few weeks ago. You're thinking to yourself, this is going to be the moment when the Bengals go on their kind of second half surge and they're going to make a push to the playoffs. I think it's over now. It's a shame because, it's that kind of cliche. You don't ever get this season back. Do you know what I mean? And with the contracts of people like T. Higgins, and they've already had to move some defensive guys on from last year, like Von Bell and Jesse Bates. Like, it could be perhaps a season where they feel like there's a little bit of regret that, this same group won't come back. So it's a shame from that point of view. The actual kind of detail of it was weird because he was never on any injury report, and then he played, and then he kind of came out, and then they're saying it's not a wrist injury, it's something complete. So the whole kind of situation is bizarre. But if he's out for the season, he's out for the season, and it is a shame, and it's kind of like a massive spanner because I thought they were going to be in the AFC Championship game again. I really did think so. But yeah, like a massive hammer blow, and for Burrow, it's as I said, it must be rubbish at this time of year because you're thinking the NFL season is so short and the off season is so long. It's not like our football; we play football for 10 months of the year, and then they're off for 4 weeks in June, and then they're back. In, you know what I mean? So the next season always comes around quite quickly. The NFL it doesn't. You got a long time to now sit and stew and think what could have been in this situation. So it's a massive shame from that point of view. But I think overall for the Bengals, I think they're now out of it. Like Jake Browning's not going to have enough to lead that offense to probably 9 or 10 wins, which I think is going to be what they need to get a wild card spot. You look at Cleveland's on 7, Houston's on 6, then Buffalo's now on 6 as well. You're probably going to need to get to 9 or 10. I just don't see the Bengals having enough at quarterback to get there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I completely agree. Joe, you've got a bit of skin in the game and obviously hoping that the Bengals don't get to that 9-10 win margin. How does it kind of alter your picture? Are you completely counting them out, or do you kind of see it a little bit differently considering you've got sort of a closer relationship with this team?
No, they're out, which is tough because obviously I don't like them, but I do appreciate good football, and I appreciate people who step up on the big stage. And as much as I don't like Joe Burrow, I'm sure you guys would hate him as much as I did if he was in your division. He's a baller, and big moments he comes through. Granted, I was in a survivor pool. I made it to week 10, and I was like, I had the Cowboys left, and I was like, Cowboys are playing the Giants, but then they're playing Carolina next week, and I bet on them to beat the Texans. So I was a little sour on them. But obviously, when they beat Buffalo, who I don't think is nearly as bad as their record indicates, and they beat San Francisco. Same case, even though they have 3 losses, I think they're way better than that. That team, when they're firing, I think they could beat anybody. I mean, which is maybe 6 or 7 teams can say that. And I don't know if you guys remember last year. Obviously, that was a heartbreaker. They lost to Kansas City, but there was like that whole locker room when Jermaine Pratt was like yelling at the guy for the late hit. And you're like, basically that same feeling is going through that locker room right now. And instead of at least happening, right at the end, it's like in the middle of the season. So now it's going to be a little bit of a dull because Jake Browning's been in the league for 5 years. He was there when he was at Washington when Peterson was still there. And I mean, we haven't even heard of him. So I doubt that he's going to string together a run of wins. Obviously, Josh Jobs came out of nowhere, and Zach Taylor has, as much as, flack as I've given him, has proven himself to be, more than average at least. So we'll see. But I think just this division's so tough. The AFC is like the Western Conferences, and the NBA, it's just like superior. Obviously, I think there'd be a different story if they're in the NFC and the Falcons division or something like that. But now there's just too much to overcome, and they started slow last year. They started even slower this year. I know his calf was, clearly he was not the same player, but you really don't have time for stuff like that, and that's even more prevalent now. And it's crazy because you would think they do all these things to protect these quarterbacks, and obviously, what is it? 6 quarterbacks are out for the year already, and it's I'm sure at least 7 or 8 will be before the season ends, where it's like an injury that's going to linger on throughout the offseason. So it's just fluke stuff. Obviously, you said that the wrist thing was happening. I'm sure guys every week hide stuff, and yeah, that was a mistake by the social team, though. I know that created quite a bit of buzz, but yeah, I don't see a scenario where they can overcome this. I haven't looked at the schedule, but I know they have to play some AFC North games, which I know the Steelers are probably not as good as their record indicates, but even that game is going to be tough for them to win. So just stringing how many? What are they? 5-6 or something? 6-5? They won't. Yeah. They won't get. They'll need to get 10 wins, and they just won't. They won't.
Yeah, I think we're all in complete agreement there. So, yeah, let's move on into our regular 3 segments. Biggest takeaway, talking point of the weekend, obviously, apart from the Burrow injury, which obviously we've just covered off. But, Joe, we'll stay with you. We'll stay in the AFC North. So I know you want to talk about the Browns. You've been itching for weeks, I think, to talk about the Browns defense in particular.
Not only have I been itching for weeks, I've been itching for decades. This has been a tough life, aside from the Baker beating Pittsburgh in the playoffs that one year. Not a lot to hang your hat on, but it's truly baffling because you see other fan bases, and obviously they, at one point or another, most of them, I can't think of any that haven't had major success over the last 20 years. And whether it's Cam Newton winning that MVP, like Carolina hasn't had a lot, but they have that to hang out on. And now we're legitimately at this point, obviously we'd have to string it together for 6 more games here, but we're one of the best defenses of all time. And I remember last year I did not like Joe Woods, and I watched more Browns than basically anyone I know. So I know that the players, it's like the Chargers, where they have good players. Like, why isn't that clicking? So Jim Schwartz has made it click, like more than made it click. So it's just been so fun to watch. And I know you'd rather have an elite offense, but it is nice knowing like probably going to get a punt here. So we're actually playing field position in 2023, and it's working. We've won games with 3 different quarterbacks. I don't know how often that's happened. So Stefanski, haven't always been the biggest fan of him at times, but I mean, I can't really argue in terms of the history that we've had, and what he's done this year is pretty remarkable. And we beat a Steelers team who's pretty pathetic on offense. I saw a thing today where I'm just going to ask you guys, when do you think the last time a coach for the Steelers was fired in season? What year? Any type of coach.
Oh, any sort of like including coordinators.
Oh, any
yeah.
Ooh.
So obviously,
it's still going to be. I think it's still going to be a long time.
It's going to be a long before Chuck Noll. It's got to be before, because the Steelers used to be really bad before he got there, and then they've had like 3 head coaches in like the last 40 years or something ridiculous. It's got to be like early Super Bowl days.
Would 1941 surprise you?
Oh,
yeah. So that's how bad things are. That is not the way. I mean, you could tell. So we had to win that type of game, obviously, like where we can put the pressure on them. And for a second there, I was like, oh my! Like I could see it unfolding. They did play better than us in the second half, and I don't know if DTR is the answer, but he did show something at least at the end of the game there. And I don't know how we'll get these wins either, but I'll take any of them I can get. I don't know if you guys can see, but my name on this is no apologies for being 7-3. I will enjoy every single one of them because I know as probably well as any fan base that it's just hard to come by in this league. So I don't know where we go from here, but I'm excited. It will be interesting to see what happens this week with Denver. Obviously, Russ is cooking, which those are just media headlines waiting to happen one way or the other. And I don't know how it's going to go. I don't know if we're going to turn him back into 2022 Russ or if he's going to continue this ascension with, I think Sean Payton is kind of inevitable. Like, I don't know how many quarterbacks would get worse under him. But yeah, if we win this game, I will say I'm a 9 out of 10% chance, or 9 out of 10 in confidence that we'll make a wild card spot. We're not going to catch the Ravens. But yeah, just to make the playoffs would be so fun because we, again, don't have a first-round pick with the Deshaun Watson contract. So that's basically the best we can hope for. Mm-hmm. And I just want to see the defense stay healthy and, like, continue to do these amazing things because offensively we're not going to be putting up 30 points a game or anything like that. So at least we'll, like, see something historic, which I've never seen besides, like, a white running back make the Madden cover, which was also pretty cool. Yeah.
You are right, though. This is from The Athletic. So, from an Athletic article published earlier today, that the Browns lead the league in total defensive EPA added throughout the whole season. It's 131 points. So, that's 13 points a game if you average that out. And that's 27 more EPA more than the Ravens, who are second. So, it's a gargantuan gap. And like you said, it's completely historic. This goes back to like the early 2000s, if not maybe a little bit later. If you a little bit earlier. If you can find a defense kind of on par with this, it might be those early 2000s Ravens teams or something like that. But yeah, it's truly historic, like you say. And it's almost a massive shame that you've not got even, I don't know, a veteran quarterback who can kind of get you through this. I don't know. I don't feel like Joe Flacco can kind of elevate this group too much. So, but he's the best.